Hello, this is Erik Larson, principal at TransformIT, and today we are going to be talking about project leadership services that we offer. Thank you for joining. Let's jump right in. So, before we get too far, I think it's important to understand the basics. What is a project? Project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. And it's important to remember that a project is temporary. It has a definite beginning and end. So what's the difference between a project and an operation? A project is temporary. A regular business operation is an ongoing effort and sustains the organization over time. So it's basically like a process, a business process that occurs every day and ongoing. Whereas a project is something temporary, it has a start and an end. And why is this important? In order to deliver on expectations, a project must have a termination. The end is reached when all the work has been carried out, all the work that's in scope, actually, and the project objectives have been met. So let's talk about the project life cycle. So at the start of the project, you will be doing some activities that will end up in creating a deliverable that is called the project charter, which is basically what is set out for the project to do. So, it's a statement or paragraph on we tend to implement this software in the organization, and then some details around it. The next phase is organizing and preparing. And in this phase, this is pretty much where you create the project management plan. So this is the actual project plan itself. And we'll get into this a few slides down here, but this is where you're going to outline your scope. You're going to outline who's involved in the project. You're going to have a high-level project timeline. You're going to have most likely, especially for larger projects, a risk assessment and various other components that are necessary to communicate to anyone who wants information on what the project is, who's in the project, who's running the project, if there's a steering committee, and specifically what the project is going to deliver. And then the next phase is carrying out the work of the project. So you can see the dotted line here shows the cost and staffing level. So obviously, when you're starting off, low cost and low staffing to develop the project charter. Then once you get to that point, you're going to add in a few more employees to create the project management plan. You're going to have to involve people to, consult them on internal folks to consult them on what, ensuring that the project is meeting all the expectations and such. And then carrying out the work is where typically you're going to involve not only internal folks, but you may involve external folks as well to, whether they be software developers or any sort of service or product that you're using to create the deliverable of the project. And then the closeout of the project, you'll see a sharp decline in people involved and cost. It's basically after the deliverables have been delivered and they've been accepted. And then this is basically conducting a lessons learned, what could we have done better, and a retrospective, and then archiving any project documents to close out the project. So there are several benefits to effective project leadership. So many of us, myself included, we've been on projects that have gone way over budget, way over time, have been incredibly frustrating, have also had a lack of communication, management, executive leadership, or even the project team members don't know where they're going with the project or where they're at. So these are all symptoms of a project that was poorly planned and led. And these are several benefits that I put together here uh, as a result of having effective project leadership. Whether your project's a large software or ERP implementation, or maybe as small as a one small little departmental change. So the first benefit is control. So with project leadership methodology in place and project management, you're going to have more control. You're going to be able to control your project scope and manage expectations. You're going to prevent budget overruns and finish on budget. You're going to avoid project rework due to a lack of communication and planning. And basically, this comes about when work is done on the project and it's submitted for acceptance, whether it be an agile type project where you have several short sprints where you come up with the deliverables throughout the project, or just a waterfall type project where you have one big final deliverable at the end of the project. And maybe it doesn't meet expectations. So then you have to go back and do rework of the deliverable of the project to ensure that it meets expectations. So, and this can happen with a lack of communication and proper planning, and potentially involving the right people up front in the project. Ensuring your deliverables meet expectations, just as what we had talked about. It's important to make sure that the deliverable of your project meets the expectations of those sponsoring the project and of all the stakeholders in the project. And then mitigation. Identify and mitigate issues timely and effectively to keep the pace going. So, especially on larger projects, you're going to run in projects that take several months or even several years. You're going to run into issues, and it's important when you first set up a project is to create what they call a risk register, where you basically list, hey, these are the things that could possibly go wrong with this project. Maybe it could be vacation planning for your resources on the project, or maybe you've got an external dependency on a vendor that there's some issues with. So these are some of the things you want to basically identify up front if possible, and then identify a mitigation plan of what you could do in the event that should happen. So so that's a very important part as well. And if you have that plan in place, you can either totally mitigate the risk, or you can address that risk timely and keep the project going, keep the pace going without any severe setbacks. And then finally, communication. Ensure communication is provided throughout the project. Common problem with projects that I've been on and that I've seen and have read about. Communication's a big problem. So, and that sometimes that doesn't surface that problem until the end, when the deliverable has been, put up there for acceptance, and all of a sudden there's a big component of the deliverable that was never part of the project, that was an expectation of someone, one of the stakeholders in the project. So, very important to have project communication going throughout the project. So a little bit about me. I'm Erik Larson. I am a senior level IT leader with a background offering over 25 years of formal IT digital transformations, implementations of software, process changes, operational changes, culture changes even. And I have experience with cross-functional and globally distributed large teams over 50 members, as well as being an active industry leader, driving innovation and partnership across the agriculture supply chain. I feel that I've built my broad skill set from my hands-on experience, contributing to the fresh produce and transportation industries. When I'm a part of a project, I like to be involved in deep in the project, be an active participant and contributor to the project, not just wait for updates on the project, whether it's, even if it's just a project or when I was head of IT as well of organizations. Most of the people who worked around me have known me to be very involved and be a part of the team. I've been also told that I've got a great ability to move from deep technical discussions to strategic conversations easily. Whether it be a deep technical discussion we're having with the tech team or software developers, I can move over to a business strategic discussion quite easily and be able to be the liaison between the leadership and the project team members. And then throughout my career, I've led multiple successful large-scale complex Microsoft and SAP ERP implementations. I also received my PMP, or Project Management Professional certification, in 2008. I am a known leader in the agriculture industry. I had chaired the produce or the producesupply.org group, which is a consortium of IT leaders. I've been involved in the Produce Traceability Initiative, as well as helping companies from farm to retail, most recently getting into FSMA 204 compliance. So a little bit about my organization. So TransformIT is 100% software, hardware, and industry agnostic. And basically what that means is I'm not compensated by any vendors, whether they be software or hardware industry, to push any products or services on my clients. And this is important to me. I want to be agnostic, where I am working for my client objectively to come up with the most proper solution without any bias. So also over the 25 years leadership experience in the fresh produce industry, TransformIT is exclusive to the food industry. We have action-oriented business advocates, whether it's me on the project management side, or we have web design talent. We've got network architecture and infrastructure administration, as well as some other services. So all of the folks that we have on our team are action-oriented business advocates. We've proven as a successful corporate strategist and also in technology alignment. We are a team of experienced leaders and architects focused solely on the success of your organization. Innovative and collaborative digital transformation thought leaders. And we actively participate and contribute to the fresh produce industry. So that, I think, is important for our clients, is that we know the industry, we know the good and the bad of that part of the supply chain, and I think that's very helpful when designing solutions and implementing solutions. And it goes on to talk about our expertise, the different services we offer. Fractional IT leadership, which is if you need a IT leader, whether it be a director of IT or CIO, for a temporary time to maybe bridge the gap between leadership, we can help with that. Or maybe you don't have the budget for a full-time IT leader. We can also provide that. Project management services, supply chain consulting, business intelligence and reporting, software strategic planning and implementation services, team building and coaching, business continuity and disaster recovery planning, vendor management services, digital transformation, strategic planning and implementations, and operational process analysis and design. So here's why you should choose us to lead your next project. I am a fresh produce industry veteran, as mentioned, with over 30 years experience. And I also have a PMP certification, which is a project management professional certification. We have an access to a library of tools created for a variety of projects. So these are tools that I've created and adopted over the years of leading projects. I also offer a planning guide to help choose the appropriate project management tools for your project. Also, and I think this is an important one too, is providing you a third-party perspective into your project and team. So there's a lot of value, I believe, in having an outsider come in that has experience in your industry, but coming in and being a part of your team with varied experience with other organizations. So I think that's also very important. And also, if your project team is tied up, um, rely on us. You can outsource your project leadership to us, and we can run your project, lead your project, so you don't tie up your team. I love this picture of these strawberries. It's great. Our methodology. Here's a glimpse of how we can help manage your project throughout its entire life cycle, from project selection to project close. So even before you begin the project, you want to build the case for your project. Maybe the project hasn't been approved yet. So there's a couple things that we can do here to help you. The first tool here is an ROI scorecard. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with scorecarding. And basically what we do is we list the different epics or desired outcomes, a deeper description into what the item is, for instance, a feature or something, in a software project, if there's a prerequisite. And then we rate, I think on this one, it's a scale of 1 to 10, employees need, what's the value from the employee's standpoint of this particular feature or function. And then the objectives from the business perspective for value: streamlining business processes, increase knowledge of business, satisfy customer requirements, improve communication and collaboration, or mitigate risk. So, and basically what you can do here, and what we do with our clients, is we meet with their group, we survey the group, and we come up with these scores, whether it be a 1 to 5 scale or 1 to 10 scale. And then this is a way of rating each of the features within a particular project or projects themselves. And it's a great way to help choose what's important to do now, what's important to work on at this moment. And so a very helpful tool. And then the next item is the business case. So if you haven't received approval yet and there's a process in your organization, or if this is a large expenditure or endeavor for this project, create a business case. And basically what it is it's a Word document that has several components to it. You've got the summary of what the business is or what the project is, the current issues that are requiring this project to happen, and then what's the possible solutions and their benefits, the estimated costs, alternatives. If we don't do this project, what else could we do? And then any project risks, and then a recommendation. We also have this planning guide on which tools are best used for the type of project you have. So there's lots of tools and techniques out there. The Project Management Institute recommends you only utilize the tools absolutely needed for your project to help keep the project nimble and keep costs to a minimum and avoid frustration. You only want to use the project tools that are necessary for the particular project you're running. So basically what this is here is a matrix of, these are all the project tools or methodologies going down the left column here. And then across the top, you've got columns of what type of project is it? Is it an individual project? Am I just doing this for myself? Or is it a small team or maybe low risk project? Maybe a medium team, medium risk project, or a large team, or a very high risk project, which could seriously put your company in jeopardy if it doesn't work out properly. So these are all the things that are recommended, the different tools and methodologies recommended depending on the project. So we can walk you through that. And maybe by now you've downloaded this guide. I do have it available for download. So very helpful. Another important service we provide in leading your project is ensuring alignment. We help you define the charter, which is the definition of the intent and scope of the project. We help you create the project plan, overview, scope definition, timeline assumptions, project risk register, project team, and RACI. So RACI is a responsibility matrix that assigns all the people in your project by task and who's responsible to do the work on the task, who's accountable to make sure that the task gets done, who is consulted in that task, and that could be internal folks consulted on making sure that the deliverable is correct. So it's like two-way communication. And I is informed. One-way communication. It's just those folks that are going to be involved in receiving information about the project. There will be no two-way communication, just one-way communication from the project out to the stakeholder, whether it be internal or could even be your customer. You're coming up with a new invoicing system, so you want to inform your customers that things are going to change. So very helpful tool. So here's the different project phases. So if you recall the chart we looked at a little while ago, you've got starting the project, organizing and preparing, carrying out the work, and then closing the project. So starting the project is identifying the stakeholders, and then the deliverable is creating the project charter. Then organizing and preparing all the components of a project management plan that you see here. And then carrying out the work is basically managing the project and leading the project. The team, quality, risk, communication, managing stakeholder expectations, managing scope, time, and project performance. And then finally, closing the project, conduct a post-project review, document lessons learned, record process changes, archive relevant project documents. And then this is important too, and a lot of folks don't do it, a lot of organizations don't do it, but it's important to celebrate and recognize people who worked hard on the project. That really helps to just take a step back and say, hey, we did this with your help, and that will have payoffs on future projects with that team. And then finally, archiving relevant project documents for future use. So it could be surveys you did, could be anything, it could be process documents, flow analysis, flow charts and stuff, process flows. So we can even help manage your vendors. Got a lot of experience in vendor management. Maybe it's even before you decide to purchase a software solution. Can help with RFI and RFP. So that's request for information or request for proposal leadership. So we can help you draft that document. We can also help conduct the demonstrations and the evaluation of the different products and services that you're looking at. And it's important to note that our service scales to your needs. So whether it be a small project you're working on or a large project, I want to make sure that we're there to meet your needs and your budget. There's also a library of self-service tools. If it's a small enough project where you think you can take it on yourself with minimal leadership, we have that as well. All right. So before we conclude, I just want to give you a little bit of a glimpse into some of the templates and tools that we use on a typical project, just to kind of give you some examples of what some of the tangible work elements we have for this service. So here's the business case. And we already looked at this a little bit earlier, but we help with that. Project plan. Now this is a larger screenshot of the project plan, but you've got the project objective. maybe the technologies used, high level approach and deliverables, which is the scope, measurable objectives and related success criteria, who the team is, project sponsors, steering committee, project team leaders, stakeholder identification, high level timeline, milestones, and then ultimately closing out the project. And then here's another tool that has become popular in the last 10 years or so is the Kanban tools, which is these little visual cards that go across a timeline. So from the task inception to the task completion or promoting to production, you've got these cards that basically move across these categories until the task is completed. So you've got ideas, maybe they're not even created yet or started being worked on. Then you've got on deck, which are in queue to be worked on. You've got work in process. So these are the items that are currently being worked on. Maybe you want to have a category to show what's outsourced. And then here's a parking lot on waiting on information on this particular example. And then you could have, if it was a software project, you could have testing, user acceptance, functional testing, then user acceptance testing category, and then ready for production, and then promoted. So these categories are all defined as you need for each project. And then one of the little spins I do on the category management as well is I also have what I call a fast track. So especially in larger or long-term projects, if something comes up that may have been forgotten or something, some task needs to be done or an additional change has occurred to increase scope on a particular project for a particular item, and it needs to be done quickly, you can put it on what we call the fast track. So we have visibility on, what's on the fast track to push that through to completion faster than these other priorities. Okay, and then we talked a little bit before about a RACI matrix. So here's a timeline including the RACI matrix. So you've got the category, which is typically used as the deliverable. And then within that, all the tasks that support that deliverable. The folks on the team, project sponsor, project leader, team members, and then the responsibilities. If you remember the RACI we talked about earlier, what their role is in each of these tasks, the start and end, and then what percent of completion this is currently at, whether it be 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. And then you've got that across the timeline. So you've got kind of like a Gantt chart and RACI matrix combined into one. Okay, and then this is kind of the granular communication week to week in the project. This is a format I like to use, and basically what you've got is maybe if this is a multi-year project, you may have quarterly objectives, or if it's a smaller project, you would just have your deliverables here by category and what was accomplished last period before the meeting and what's on deck for this upcoming period until we meet again. So this is all the strategic activities that are going to be carried out in the next, or what was carried out in the prior period, and then maybe the last week, and then what is going to be carried out in the next week. These are other activities. So these are things that pop up that may not be a part of the project strategy, but need to be addressed or somehow are related to this project, or it could be something not related to the project that's pulling staff away from it. A little box here that shows FYI and concerns on the project. Parking lot area here for ideas, and then any upcoming travel and time away. Managing the scope. So it's inevitable, especially with long projects, that you're going to have opportunities where you're going to challenge scope and you're going to need to add to the scope. So we've got a log here or a register of each item where the scope has changed. And this is really good to have just so that you've got a record of things, work added to the project over time, so that you can it helps with your analytics. Also, at the bottom there, we've got the roadmap or parking lot, which are items that or ideas that came up throughout the project, but were decided out of scope, but were worth noting somewhere. Also, what I'd like to mention too is all of our clients are entitled to a Microsoft Teams dedicated site that they can access 24/7, 365. And what you get with that Microsoft Teams site is a collaborative workspace with chat functionality. So you can chat internally with your team, or you can chat with us, or whether it be if you're reaching out for some consulting help or whatever, you can do it on your time, whether it be any time of day. You can go ahead and use that chat, and then when the other folks on the team get in the next day or happen to be working that evening, you can use it and chat back and forth. So it's very helpful. You also have web meeting functionality, which is when you hold your periodic meetings with the team, you can use that feature. It also has the Kanban project task planner application, as well as a project timeline, and then a project file repository for all your files related to that project. So it's a great tool to have, and it is included as part of the services package that we offer. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you have any questions at all, you can reach me at the phone number listed there below, or send me an email. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Could also jump on a call and talk about this upcoming project that you may have and how we can help you, or if you're looking for a couple of tips. Would love to meet you and help you out with your project. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye.